Hi everyone, it's Christine, your lovable huggable muse, and welcome to the Vortex, everyone. We're bringing you our uploads from our downloads. And today, guys, we're just going to be talking about ways to raise your vibrations. And you guys, I'm noticing in the political arena and in our current economical environment, there have been situations going on in the past few months that included COVID-19 and some of the things that have been going on in our political arena that has really been lowering the vibrations of the collective. And why is this important, you guys? Because if you understand energy or consciousness at all, the levels of consciousness where we can actually manifest our highest potential, you guys, is found in the higher levels of our human experience. And so today, you guys, we're going to be going over something that someone I've been following, Aaron Doherty, often shows. He shows a chart map of consciousness, which is in a book by David Hawkins called Power versus Force. And this chart right here kind of gives you an example of where we are in certain experiences of our vibrations and whether or not they're higher or lower. And this is a really interesting one because when you notice, you guys, that you're operating on the lower vibrations, which is usually 200 or less, you start feeling or experiencing feelings like anger, jealousy, bitterness, pessimism, and guilt. And when we're in these types of situations and stages, you'll notice that nothing seems to be going right. Our ability to manifest things that we really want tends to be replaced, and we tend to get more of what we don't want. And it tends to kind of spiral down into more of what we don't want. It would keep ourselves in that negative state that we're in. So, obviously, feelings and emotions, you guys, I don't ever want us to deny them. I mean, they're there for a reason. Our feelings are like signposts that are telling us something about ourselves that we just kind of need to be more self-aware of, and that we just sort of need to take some time to process. And that's one of the things that's kind of nice when you're actually going through the awakening experiences. When you start looking at these emotions, you start looking at them and just processing them. And you start to realize that if you just focus on the feelings and just not the problems themselves, you soon find that those feelings will eventually change and go away. And that's pretty much what it is to try to process them. Just to realize that they are what they are. You can learn a lesson from them, and then past that point, you let it go and you move on to the next experience. And what we're seeing right now, you guys, especially with this chart, and when we're in the lower vibrations, there are certain things that cause us to lower vibrations, just depending on what we do. And this is just really based more on esoteric principles, you guys. So I don't want anyone to feel guilty or bad if they're doing some of these things. I do some of these things too. But I think the more that we shift and make changes in our life, the more that we can realize that we can kind of improve our way of living. So some of the ways, you guys, that we lower vibrations, and I found a few articles down below, which I'm going to post, that kind of gives you some examples, is mainly things like eating junk food and maybe processed food, and not eating some of the whole foods that we really should be eating that are good for our body and just makes us feel better. When we have stress and anxiety, when we're using toxic products, or we have some toxicity in our environments. A lot of times there's so much chemicals in our cosmetics and cleaners, and it's just so hard for our body to recover from that it really just brings everything down. Some things like prolonged exposure to electronics, your cell phones and computers and TVs. Sometimes it's just a good idea to kind of get away from it all. Holding on to certain negative feelings like maybe anger, guilt, or resentment, having negative self-talk about yourselves, like you feel like you're not good enough, or that everything you do is always wrong, gossiping about other people, or, just having these negative feelings and experiences about other people and making assumptions about them, wanting more rather than just being grateful for what you already have. Living in the past, worrying about the future, and maybe from time to time, an over excess or abuse of alcohol and drugs. And you guys, when we find ourselves in these lower states, sometimes it's really hard to kind of find ways to get out of it. And that's kind of really what I want to focus more on today, is just the what's and the how's. And then on some of our next series, we'll definitely go more into, how is that relative to everyday life? Because we obviously want to have more fulfilling and meaningful lives. But when we're kind of bogged down in the triangle in these states below 200, we don't see the possibilities, because we literally are in this cloud where we can't see the possibilities and some of the amazing things that can happen in our lives. So that's why when we do find our states a little bit lower than we'd like to, and usually, you guys, it is a signpost, so it does have a lot to do with how you're feeling and the emotions that you're carrying at the time. When you find yourself in that state, it's really important to try and shift it in any way that you can, really. And sometimes it's a lot more easier said than done, you guys, especially when it's something you've been doing all your life, and it's just something you think is kind of normal. And I'm only sharing this with you guys because this is something I've experienced a majority of my life. I think for most of my life, I operated below 200. There were times when I did find myself a little bit elevated. I did have a religious background, so it did help me a little bit. But then there were a lot of times when I was finding myself a lot below 200, and I just didn't have the right kind of terminology to share with you on, what that was or how, I could change that. So this is just some of the ways I found, which I'm also going to list up here, everyone, that helps you shift your sense of consciousness into a more higher vibratory state. And that's where all the magic happens, you guys, when you start manifesting the kind of life that you want, and you start attracting the things and the people that are really meant to be there. Because really what I want to do, you guys, is just help you find your alignment and what makes sense to you and what your purpose in life is. And when you just implement some of these tools, it really helps with that. And so there were a few ways that we found, and I'm also going to post the article below. And the first one, which I always encourage everyone to start with when you really don't know where to start, is meditation. And there's various different kinds. There's various different groups you guys can go to and join. There's transcendental. There's self-guided. I tend to do a little bit of both. And I there's so many resources, you guys. I would definitely post meditation down here for you guys all the time, because I do believe in the power of meditation. And really, to me, it's just what it's doing. It's just making you be more mindful and thoughtful of what goes on in your head. And especially if you're doing guided meditation, it just reinforces more of what you want in a more subconscious state. And the second one, you guys, is being creative. So go out of your comfort zone, you guys. Do something that's exciting for you that you've never thought to do before. Try something new. There's so many ways to tap into your creativity. We had that naturally as children, and we tended to get that stifled growing up. But you guys, we can create any kind of world we want. So find ways to be creative. Join an art class, or join something that just sparks your interest. Go to a museum, or go somewhere where those creative juices could definitely flow. 3 is eating raw or whole foods. So I will post below, you guys. I actually had read several studies about how certain foods just have certain types of energy, and the highest vibratory types of foods tend to be more raw, more naturally sourced, more organic. They do wonders for the body. I definitely will do another feed on that. When you eat things that are natural, that are locally sourced, all of these things really affect the energy of the food that you guys are eating. And number 4, you guys, is focus on the gratitude. So I know sometimes it can be difficult. Life gets a little bit hard sometimes, and we have a hard time seeing what's so amazing about the life that we live. But, focus on that, you guys. Everyone has something to be grateful for. If we're alive and we're breathing, There you go. You can start there. But, start looking at the things and the people around you and some of the good experiences you have and focus on those and just attract more of that. Feeling unconditional love. So there you go. Give love, send it out. Don't expect anything back. And that's just going to be, I always tell people, especially if people are trying to attract relationships and trying to attract what they really want in life. I always say, in order to attract what you want, you need to become what you want. So if you want to attract love, be that love. Be unconditional to other people. When you give, don't expect anything back in return. Give unconditionally, and don't necessarily get so bummed out when you don't receive it back in the manner which you expect it, because the universe will always bring it back to you in one form or another. If you give those kind of affections in one place, you may not necessarily get it back in the same way, but you will definitely get it back. Being in nature, you guys. I love where I live. It's absolutely green and beautiful here. And if you guys don't necessarily have that, go out to the park or go outside of the city, or just find a place that's your own piece of heaven on earth. Because I do, take off your shoes, play in the river. There's so many amazing ways to enjoy nature, and that just really brings you back into your core self and everything. You start to realize how amazing the world is and how you're just a really small part of an amazing grand scheme. And it's just accepting what is, you guys. Not everything is going to make sense. Not everything is going to have a rhyme or reason. And, for all of us who like to have control in our lives, sometimes that's not always going to be a possibility. And sometimes the only thing you have to realize is the only thing you have control of is you and what's inside here. So some people, you guys use crystals, some other esoteric tools, rocks. I personally love to just pick up different rocks and just like leaves and things from nature, and I just like to keep them around the house, especially if I go to like a new place that I haven't been to, like when I went to Greece, or when I went to Mexico, or sometimes when I go on vacation, I always bring a little trinket back with me just to kind of give me a little bit of a remembrance of where I was. So I always definitely enjoyed that, you guys. Definitely do some exercise and yoga if you have a chance to. It is a great experience. There's different ways to move your body. Not only are you creating a way for your blood to flow, information throughout your body tends to flow a little bit better when you're exercising. So you just get a lot more clarity. You're getting the right kind of chemicals flowing through your body that not only brings up your clarity, mental clarity, but it also brings up and elevates your mood. So if you have some time, 20 or 30 minutes a day, you guys go for a walk or do any kind of exercise that will uplift you and bring your vibrations up. Laughing, you guys, and smiling. They even say, if you even just fake a smile or just fake a laugh, that's saying where you fake it till you make it, everyone. Well, it's subconsciously, even if you fake a smile or fake a laugh, will actually uplift your vibrations, just because naturally your body will respond to any type of stimulus you put in it. So if sometimes you're just not in the mood and you just can't do it, like I said, fake it till you make it, and give your body the experience that it needs to kind of, just reignite those feelings so that you can bring more joy and uplifting into your life. And last, you guys, is music, singing, and chanting. Like I said in previous posts before, the universe operates in vibration, and some of its most favorite tools in the world to be able to communicate with us and to show us signs is through things like music and singing and dancing, because those are all vibratory types of elements. And when you engage in that, you literally can change the vibrations all around you. So you guys, I really enjoyed this topic with you. I think it is so important, just because right now there's still this air of just confusion and a lot of low-lying vibrations going on in our atmosphere. And I've always told people to make that shift from down here to up here, you guys, is literally as easy as snaps and fingers. So I hope that I was able to kind of give you guys a little bit more insight today about how to not only to raise your vibrations, but how to kind of recognize the things that might lower your vibrations. And not that we necessarily have to take it away all at once. You know, you guys, everything is, you just need to take it a little bit at a time. So take your time finding out the things that work and don't work for you. And definitely, you know, just work on finding ways to bring ourselves up to these vibratory states where you can manifest the kind of life that you want. So thank you so much for joining me, everyone. You guys have an amazing day. Bye-bye.